Okay, my name is Lawrence McGlynn, and you are listening to the award-winning Philadelphia Hall Monitor here on WPPM 106.5 in Philadelphia, on Comcast Channel 66, and streaming live at phillycam.org. You can find us on Twitter at Hall Monitor WPPM, on our website www.hallmonitor.org, or on Facebook at PHM WPPM. Tonight on the program, Lisa Haber will join us to discuss the school district's school closing list. Denise Clay Murray will report on changes made to the president's house and on new legislation aimed at ICE that will be introduced in Philadelphia City Council tomorrow. And Vanessa Maria Graber will present on the city's snow emergency. So we're going to open up now with Lisa Haver. Lisa, how are you tonight?
Good evening, Larry. I'm good.
Well,
My
it's
news
good.
may not be so good. I'm great.
Yeah, well, it's good to see you, and there's a lot to talk about here. So let's get right into it. Tell us, this list came out last Thursday when we were actually in City Council, and Denise and I talked about it a little bit on the City Council show on
Yeah,
WURD. We didn't get a lot of time to get into it,
yeah,
but 20 schools are on this list.
yeah. So when we get to it, I made a little visual just to give people an idea of what is happening. Because when you say 20 schools are on the list, um, it the district terminology is overlapping. It's confusing. It's really hard, and I want to say thank you to the Inquirer and Chalkbeat for taking all that information and putting it into a list that we could actually understand. Because when we get to the list, I'm going to point out all the verbs, the different verbs that were used by the district. That you have to think, well, wait, what's co-locating, what's phasing, what's merging, all of that. But when my commentary actually said last Thursday was really disturbing day for Philadelphians. One, because the Trump administration removed the display from Independence Mall. And I have to, for me, that was, both of these are personal things, but I do remember how hard Attorney Michael Cord and other people fought to get that display. And I remember how much pushback there was. Oh, no, my God, we can't talk about slavery. And he fought and fought and fought and won. And people visited that, and it was a great thing. Trump administration comes and tears it down. And on that same day, the school district released its facilities master plan. And as I point out, people who live in the city and come to visit the city had a chapter of African American history torn down from Independence Mall. And we're going to lose a number of schools, including at least 4 high schools where our students learn African American history on the same day. I have to say, as a parent of children who graduated from the district schools, as a teacher, as an activist for a long time, as somebody who's been part of the district in many ways, parent, teacher, community member, activist. I really have to say, I do not say this lightly, this facility master plan to me represents a true moral failing. It's a failure of this district, and it will be a moral failure for the board if they approve it, and all indications are that they will be rubber stamping this plan. And I think it's a moral failure, but I think it's really going to be a logistical nightmare. And what's perhaps most shocking about this plan is it seems to have nothing to do with what anybody said at the community meetings, in the surveys, at board action meetings, in any place that I was at or other APS members were at. It you look at this plan and you think, where did they hatch this thing? And so I say it's a moral failure for a number of reasons. They didn't listen to people. It's going to cause untold disruption. the board, which is entrusted to take care of this school district, is really going to drive people away from public schools. You know, people are going to be faced with uncertainty. They're going to have schools that they love, like I cited Moffitt, that they really love, that are in tough neighborhoods, but are great schools. They're not going to be able to, they'll go into the same building. They're not going into the same school. People are going to go off to private schools, parochial schools, charter schools. Another big problem right now is we really don't even know when the board is going to vote on this plan. It could possibly be this coming month, February 26th, I believe. Could be the next month. We don't know. And we were around, APS was just getting started in 2013, getting organized then when the first round of school closures, mass school closures happened. And that was under the School Reform Commission. They released their list months and months before those schools were closed down. And there were a number of meetings, and I'm not saying it made a big difference, but it did make some difference with people at least had a chance. I'm not sure how much of a chance people are going to have right now to actually say, whoa, hold on. And we're going to bring this up in 1 minute. I want to a little caveat at the beginning. It's going to look like a whole comprehensive list. It's not. There's still information being released piecemeal via district superintendents, via principals, via other staff people. The way that I see it is it's been done in a very unprofessional manner. So, Larry, if we want to bring up the first slide.
Okay. There you go. And we have Denise Clay Murray here with us. Denise?
Hi. Sorry I'm a little bit late. I was talking to some people about a story that Lisa actually mentioned on the President's House. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later.
Wasn't that last Thursday was not a great day for Philadelphians. So,
well, when I saw the woman walking through City Hall in a hood and Klan robe, and it was a Black lady, I kind of knew that
it was an omen.
Thursday was going to be weird.
Yeah.
You can't make this stuff up.
This is the first of 3 pages. Again, not a comprehensive list, but this is directly from the school district website. This is expanding access to grades 5 to 12, criteria-based and CTE schools. Now, maybe what I see in this whole plan is like sort of if you remember this or familiar with this, we had to destroy the village in order to save it. That was what we heard during the Vietnam War. And I feel like they're telling us we have to tear down the district in order for kids to have more access to whatever. But, I pointed out they have modernizing, moving, adding, increasing, merging, reassigning. That just gives you an idea. Moving Masterman, moving Bodine, those are both magnet schools. Reassigning Conwell schools, well, kind of didn't mention there that that's because you're closing Conwell. Merging, modernizing. So that's why I said, it was really helpful when we see Chalkbeat and Inquire that put this into a more understandable form. I just want people to see it the way the school district put it out there. Next slide.
Did it go?
Mm-mm.
There you go.
Okay, thank you. Now this is billed as reducing unnecessary transitions for students. And again, you don't see the word closing, you do see phasing out. Phasing out this middle school, Stetson Middle School. And and Harding, which is very upsetting to me because I spent about 8-9 years teaching at Harding Middle School, which is in East Frankfort on Torresdale Avenue. And, you know, Harding had a reputation as being a tough school, which it was. But when I was there, people wanted to be there. Teachers wanted to be there because every school has a different culture. And Harding had a kind of like Philly gritty culture. Like, yeah, we're at Harding, you know, but we're going to teach these kids and the kids are going to learn. Plus, we were lucky we have really good principals during my years there. So it's upsetting. You know, it's upsetting for me to see a school close that I haven't been at in over 10 years. So, you know, try to imagine what that's like for the kids who are actually there. Okay, we can go to the next one. Co-locating high schools. Now, as I said, APS members went to a lot of community meetings over the past couple of years in a lot of different neighborhoods. Go back one. And one of the things that we try to figure out is what is co-locating. So does that mean you're closing one school and then you're combining them, which if you do math, 2 minus 1 equals 1. The idea behind co-locating is that the school, like if you go to down near the bottom, co-locating Building 21 at Martin Luther King High School. So Building 21 would remain a school entity. You know, just, you know, ask people, think of schools not as building, but as entities. So Building 21 would go into Martin Luther King High School building. Workshop school would go into Overbrook. U school would go into Edison. Now, will that work? Might. It so far we think has worked when Science Leadership Academy combined with Ben Franklin into one school. One question I would say is, will the district be able to maintain or justify the expense of having 2 schools, 2 administration, 2 staff in the same building? And they might. They might be able to do that. The other thing I ask people to notice is, starting at the bottom, the U school building will be conveyed to the city or sold. Building 21 will be conveyed to the city. And a number of these items say that, which we talked about last month and I wrote about, you know, the city has a $6 billion capital fund. There is no precedent and there is no reason for the school district to be giving real estate or any type of asset, just giving it away to anyone, including the city of Philadelphia. So that's, and I believe city council has to have a say in that. So that is very, very tentative. So again, this is not a complete list. And I noted in my commentary 2 examples. Well, Lankino's on this list, but Moffett, you won't see that on any of the pages that we just displayed that are taken from the district. So Moffett is a school. It's in 19122. Some people will call that Fishtown. Some people will call it Kensington. It's in that place that people call Port Fishington. And it is a nice school and the parents really like it and parents are very involved there. It's a K-5 school. That's an elementary school. The plan, which is not on this website, but parents found out when they got email, I believe, from the principal and also from the facilities manager downtown at 440, that Moffett K-5 school will now become a 5 to 8 school, and their K-4 students will now go to Hackett School. So when you say, well, oh, okay, well, they're not closing Moffett School. In that year, if they actually carry this out, you're not going to Moffett Elementary anymore. You're going to Moffett Middle School. So I think the parents there would feel that the school that their children go to, that they contribute to, that they know is not there anymore. You can call it closed, call it converted, you can call it merged. It's not there. So if we could take a look just at that next slide and some of the issues that I think we have to figure out. And again, when APS members went to these meetings, and one question we kept asking was why? Why are we closing schools? Nobody wants it. Nobody has ever come to a meeting and said, please close my child's school. I can only tell you when we asked that question what they said it wasn't. They said it wasn't a district issue. It's not because parents or community members call for it. It's not because schools are under enrolled. More than half of charter schools are under enrolled. And by the way, this facility's plan did not include any charter schools. It was only district public schools. It's not because buildings are old. Yes, some buildings are old, but so City Hall, so's a lot of buildings, including, Independence Hall. It's not the age of the building, it's the condition of the building. What did the parents, students, educators say they wanted in the meetings and in the survey? When the district released the results of the latest survey, again, people said, no, we do not want schools closed. And one parent was quoted in the Inquirer saying, Penn Treaty parent, which is slated for closure, if you combine schools, you're going to see more overcrowded classrooms. People want school librarians. People want more counselors, more extracurricular activities. They want more support services. So my question was, all right, if we didn't hear anybody say we want schools closed, or please combine my school with a middle school and, merge it or convert it or co-locate it, what is going on? And I reiterate that the Board of Education is not part of the city's executive branch. The members are appointed by the mayor, but they are mandated to act as an independent governing body. Do they act that way? No, they do not. And I think when you look at recent activities from the mayor and the response from the board, there's no denying who's in control here, and it's not supposed to be that way. When you empty out buildings, it means you have more real estate that developers can develop. It's not good for communities. We saw what happened at Ada Lewis in East Germantown, became an eyesore and then became a crime scene. But when you have empty buildings, that is a plus also often for developers. And I gave an example in the article, the Bach building. Bach building was a great school. It was it was called Votech, then CTE school, that was closed and then converted into, I guess, an arts building. But there's no denying that the mayor's political support, much of it has come from developers. And what we've seen is the school board, whenever the mayor says, okay, we need you to vote for these abatements, whether it's the Keystone Opportunity Zone, the KOZ abatements, or it's the TIF abatement that was specifically for the arena, the board voted for them. So we have to really be realistic and say, when the board says we're for the children, and when Superintendent Tony Watlington says we're for the families, I say, look at this plan and you tell me who is benefiting from this plan.
And, these are kind of, it always seemed to me, traumatic events for neighborhoods.
Very.
When this happens.
Yeah.
Having seen this before, disruption-wise, what is it going to be like for the students and the parents?
It's going to be terrible. And note that last spring, well, in 2025, this school board, for the first time since it was reconstituted in 2018, first time approved the creation of a new charter school. Now, there are 4 letters of intent that have been sent to the board this year that will be followed by applications. I think there's a really good chance that they will approve at least one new charter school, despite the fact, that they don't have to approve any new charter schools, despite the fact that, as I said, more than half the charter schools in the city are under-enrolled and some significantly under-enrolled. We have a very strong charter patronage system in the city. So it's going to be, it's going to be bad. Kids are going to have to travel farther away. They're going to have fewer opportunities. I think if you have to travel farther in the morning and the afternoon, I think that gives you less opportunity to be in school and have extracurricular activities and sports. It's so disruptive, and I want to say again, the grade school that I went to is closed. The high school I went to is closed. Harding Middle School, where I spent 10 happy years, even though it was a tough place, is going to close. But I've never been at a school when it closed when I was there. And it is really, really upsetting. And we remember those, and I remember specifically students from University City High School, students from Carroll High School, which is a very, very small high school, not too far from Uni City. And they cried. They cried. And they said, please, it's a special place. And I knew a couple of my friends who taught at Uni City, and they loved it there. It's very upsetting. Schools are often safe havens for children. It's their home away from home. It's where they are. And the unfortunate reality is that some children live in homes that are not entirely safe havens for them. And when they come to school, it is a safe haven for them. We should not be doing this to children. And this plan is so, it's just, I can't express, not just, I'll just say it again. I think it's going to be a logistical nightmare. And yes, there are more public meetings scheduled, but don't ask me why. Other than window dressing. Because, as I said, this plan does not reflect anything that any of us heard in a meeting or read in their own survey. And, we have talked about this before, and Denise, you have written about this, how disruptive it is to neighborhoods and to families.
I covered the last round of school closings in 2013 and 2014. And you're right, I also wrote an article that looked at how those closings impacted mental health and gun violence in those neighborhoods. And one thing that the school district said, that this process was not going to resemble that process.
It's worse.
And it looks like they're right in a sense, but not in the right way, because even Councilmember Curtis Jones, when he saw the plan, said, have you taken into consideration the fact that you're trying to put people from different neighborhoods that do not get along in the same school again? Because if you remember, after the 2013-2014 closings, King was a mess. Because you had people
Germantown
from Germantown High School and people from King, two schools that had populations that traditionally did not get along with each other in the same school. And it was a mess.
There's so many. That was the most notorious one. I made note that in 2013, they were going to close Carnell. Now, Carnell is in a neighborhood that I think most people call Crescentville, like near Adams and the Boulevard. they were going to close Cornell, and then they decided, this was in 2013, oh no, okay, we'll just eliminate the middle school grades, 6th, 7th, and 8th. And they decided that the kids from Cornell would go to Harding, which is across Roosevelt Boulevard. So great idea. Let's have, 11, 12-year-old kids crossing the boulevard during rush hour. Fabulous. Now they're closing Harding Middle School. Guess where they want to send the kids now? Back to Cornell.
I try not to drive on the Roosevelt Boulevard in a car. And there are far too many incidents of people who have been struck and killed crossing the Roosevelt Boulevard.
Yeah. So
and you're going to do this to elementary and middle school kids?
It's not just, Curtis Jones, Councilman Jones is absolutely right. But there's also like travel issues here. But I hope that city council does take a more active role. I'm there, every week at city council, and I have to talk to some of the council members about this. This process started in fall of 2024. But we really do need the council members to be more vocal and take a stand and say no school closings. We need the education committee to meet. I don't think my reading of the city council website shows me that there hasn't been a meeting. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm sure somebody will. When you look at how many meetings of the education committee there has been to talk about K-12 issues, I have seen one in 2025. So we really need city council to step up and speak up for the constituents.
Well, Council Member Jeffrey Young, introduced legislation that would put on the May primary ballot a provision that would allow city council to remove members of the school board.
Yeah, that's ridiculous, if I may cut to the chase. That is, we probably will have to talk about this later, but for people who follow what goes on in city council in the district, to me, that seems to be a reaction to what happened with board member Joyce Wilkerson, and that, the charter operators did not want her on the board. The mayor prevailed. There's now some legal issues going on around that. But no, it's absolutely, it has to go on the ballot because they have to change the home rule charter. Again, home rule charter says the board acts and governs in an independent manner. It's, it's also, I don't know if council member Isaiah Thomas is still pushing this, but a few months ago, Thomas was talking about city council should have special oversight into district facilities. And this was, I think, mostly around the time that schools were dealing with asbestos and issues like that. I, as somebody who goes to the school board and gets frustrated with the school board, I still want that school board to operate independently. I do not see any benefit to having city council exercise political power over the school district for their own political purposes. What I would like the council to do, again, meet in the education committee, bring in the school board members, bring in the administration, have public hearings where you don't leave the room when the public gets up, listen to people, and send your staff to board meetings. So when the board shows up, you can ask salient questions. But to just say, we're going to ignore the board all year, and then you know what? Whoops, something's happening. Let's try to take control. That will not work, and it's not a good idea.
All right. Well, Lisa, where can we learn more about the Alliance for Philadelphia Public Schools?
Boy, well, come to a board meeting. You'll see us there all the time. There is one tomorrow. By the way, there is a rally at 3:00. Stand Up for Public Schools, part of the coalition that we're in. We are on just about every social media site you can find. Apps Philly. Our website is appsphilly.net. And you will see me in City Hall on Thursdays, and you'll see me at every board meeting, and you'll see the apps members there. And we will be talking for this for quite a bit.
All right. Well, Lisa Haver, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Larry. Thank you so much, Denise.
All right, Denise, where do you want to start?
Oh boy. Well, as I mentioned earlier, there was a Black woman walking through the halls of City Hall wearing a Klan hood and robe on Thursday.
That is correct.
And to me, that was kind of an omen
Yes.
for what happened on Thursday. On Thursday,
Yeah.
The Trump administration made good on its threat to take down the panels about slavery in Washington's White House at what is called the President's House Memorial. And because of this, the city has sued the Department of the Interior and the National Park Service over the removal of these panels. The Avenging the Ancestors Coalition is partnered with a bunch of historic groups, including the Preservation Alliance and others, to file an amicus brief on behalf of the city with this suit. Now, you're probably wondering how the city can do this in the first place. And here's how the city can do this in the first place. The city actually owns the land. It leased that land, the Independence National Park land, to the Park Service in 1950. And the idea behind that partnership was to preserve the land and to make exhibit space. Now, in 2006, when that cooperative agreement was renewed, the President's House Memorial was included in that, meaning that there had been excavation done that found the bones of people who were enslaved in the nation's first White House at that site, which is why the President's House Memorial looks the way it does, because it includes that excavated site. And it allowed for the panels and everything like that. And the only group of people that are supposed to have any kind of say so over that site, according to the cooperation agreement, are the Park Service and the city. And you're not supposed to make any changes to that site without the city having a say, because the city actually owns the land. So the Parker administration is sued. The case is going to be heard at 10:30 on Friday in courtroom 12A at the federal courthouse at 7th and Market. If you want to come out and show your support, it was actually, announced that the panels had been taken down during the mayor's press conference with her ceremonial bill signing of the home initiative bond issue. So that was like the first question asked of her when she was taking questions from the press. And she, said that the legal department was looking into it, and the suit, which is, for a permanent injunction, was filed then. Now, another thing came up yesterday. A group of city council people, council minority leader Kendra Brooks, council member at large Rue Landau, will be introducing a package of bills on Thursday, during Thursday's meeting, that would restrict the movements of ICE in terms of what city agencies and city employees can do for them. Like, if you're a city worker and the folks at ICE ask you to help them with a federal enforcement operation, the legislation would prohibit you from doing that, and that would include the Philadelphia police. For once, Anthony Phillips's mask bill would have a use that isn't completely silly, because this legislation, if passed, would extend the city's mask prohibition to law enforcement officers when they come into city buildings, meaning that they couldn't conceal their identities, they can't cover up their ID badges. For once, the mask, the poo shiesty law wouldn't have a silly connotation. It would also ban ICE from staging raids on city-owned properties and community spaces, which means if ICE is massing at a city park, it wouldn't be able to do that anymore. Now, the only place that wouldn't apply is the criminal justice center, because ICE already has a presence there, and the city and the state also has agencies that, do things at the criminal justice center. Now, there is legislation pending in Harrisburg that would extend that to state-run institutions, but I don't know how much traction that's going to get. It also, the package of laws would also prohibit city agencies and contractors from providing ICE with access to data sets to assist in immigration enforcement, and city employees would be prohibited from asking about an individual's immigration status unless required by a court order or state or federal law. Also today, District Attorney Larry Krasner has joined a group of progressive prosecutors, including the prosecutor in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, which what's been going on out there has inspired a lot of this, in putting together a group of prosecutors to make sure that ICE follows state law by prosecuting them. So that he had a press conference regarding that earlier today. So basically, from what I can see, there are elements within the city of Philadelphia that are making plans for if ICE stops by, because everyone you talk to on a national level says that the next big push is probably going to be Philadelphia. So you have folks that are, kind of putting their heads together to say, okay, you may want to do this big push here, but we're not going to let you just come in here and run amok. Now, what's going to happen with the bills themselves, with this package of ICE out bills, is anybody's guess. They haven't been assigned to a committee yet because they haven't been introduced. But even when they are introduced, which committee is going to get them is anybody's guess. I'm hearing possibly committee of the whole. Mm-hmm. And even if the committee of the whole does get them, there's not a 100% chance that these bills are going to pass, because you do have elements within city council. Even though Ketsi Lozada wasn't at the press conference, she did have a statement read saying she supported the legislation. Jamie Gaudier, council member Gaudier, was there. And there might have been fewer people there because it was just cold out. And you had a press conference outside, which to me was just ridiculous. But, you didn't have everybody who could possibly vote in favor of this bill out there. But you do have folks who may not support this legislation. And you also have, there may be some pressure coming from the mayor's office itself to not support these bills. Because let's face it, while the city has sued the Park Service over the president's house, and Governor Shapiro has filed an amicus brief in support of that suit with the Avenging the Ancestors Coalition, while all of that might be going on, there is absolutely no indication that the mayor is going to take any more of a stance in terms of protecting the city's immigrant populations from ICE than she has already said. In fact, when she was talking about the President's House Memorial being, dismantled and the city filing suit, she said, when a reporter asked, well, aren't you angry about this? She basically said in so many words, I'm the mayor, I can't be angry. Now, I understand that, I understand that you have to keep your emotions in check. I get it. But you have people who are looking at you as the mayor of a city that basically ICE is targeting. And they're saying, what are you doing? Why aren't you saying anything? We appreciate you filing this lawsuit on behalf of the president's house, and we hope that it's successful. But what are you going to do beyond that? And that's the $64,000 question.
Right. And, the strategy, and we've talked about it a lot on this show, the administration strategy has been from the beginning, let's not make ourselves conspicuous.
Mm-hmm.
Let's lay low and hopefully we get ignored. And I thought that was a bad strategy. I think the best way to fight Trump is to punch him in the face, like other places have done, and he stops. He's a bully, and bullies respond to this. So if ICE does come here, now after what we've seen in Minneapolis, the thought now is that ICE is pulling out of Minneapolis. They're going to leave. There have been other places mentioned as targets. But let me get to this first. Do you think after what we saw in Minneapolis and ICE murdering 2 people and now sort of backing off, do you think there's going to be a push from the White House to send ICE to other places based on what happened in Minneapolis?
Well, ICE is currently the best funded federal law enforcement agency we have. And there are still all of these blue cities and blue states for the Trump administration to pick with. Plus, you also have to look at the politics of this situation. Pennsylvania is a swing state. Josh Shapiro was up for re-election. He's also being talked about as a candidate for the 2028 presidential election. If you don't think that this administration is thinking about ways to make him look like an absolute dope on the largest stage possible, you have not been paying attention. While it would be nice to think that they have learned a lesson from Minnesota, and that lesson being maybe we need to better train our officers, or maybe we shouldn't do things like shoot people dead in the street because people don't like that. I don't see this administration as a group of people that necessarily learns its lessons correctly. Right. And when you have people like Senator John Fetterman who aren't willing to say this agency should be abolished,
right,
because it's not doing the work that it's supposed to do correctly, or this agency needs to have some of its funding taken away because we've given it too much money and they've run amok with it. As long as you have people who are doing that, the chances of ICE, going anywhere are somewhere between slim and none. So I think this is still going to be an issue, especially now as we're entering midterm season.
Yeah. And that's another point I want to make. The response, at least poll-wise, to Minneapolis has been a disaster for Republicans. Mm-hmm. Which is why my feeling is that if you're looking at this from a purely political outlook, you don't do anything else. If you're the Republicans, you back off. But I don't know if they're with you. I'm with you. I don't know if they're gonna do that or not, because they don't do things that are rational. They just act.
You have to look at it from the perspective of there are Republicans and then there are Trumpers. While they may be part of the same party, they don't always think the same way. More mainstream Republicans are freaking out right now because, and there's no nicer way to put this, when you're shooting white ladies in the face in the streets of Minneapolis, that's going to make soccer moms seriously reconsider whether or not they want to put you back in office.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, and that's what's happening right now.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't, the mainstream Republicans who have lost control of this party for decades, and they just don't, wish to admit it to themselves. They are looking at this, and like I said, they're looking at this in horror. But they also could have prevented it, and they didn't. And now, you have this runaway train, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do with it. But fortunately for them, you have a Democratic Party that doesn't know how to get out of its own way. Hopefully, whether or not that actually changes anything, whether or not this actually changes that dynamic is anybody's guess.
Right. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that legislation tomorrow, and what happens going forward with it into the spring, and what the mayor's reaction is going to be. It's going to be really interesting. So now we'd like to bring in Vanessa Maria Graber to tell us a little bit about this weather emergency and where people can find resources. Vanessa, how are you tonight?
Hey, I'm cold, but I'm okay. I actually just left the Philly Cam Studios, walking around Center City, and there's still a lot of snow everywhere.
Yes. The city response to this snow cleanup has been less than stellar.
Yeah, it's a lot of snow. We officially got around 9 inches of snow here in Philadelphia and around South Jersey. And the reason why I wanted to give an update is because we're expecting another round of snow possibly on Sunday. There is a storm, a nor'easter, brewing off the coast of New Jersey in the Atlantic. And hold on a second. And they're calling it a bomb cyclone, and that is expected to give a lot of snow. So in our area, there is a 20 to 40% chance of a couple inches of snow, although that percentage changes if the storm shifts closer to the coastline. And so right now, because the storm is out in the Atlantic, the Jersey Shore seems like they will get the brunt of that storm. But again, we won't know for sure until closer to Saturday how much snow, if any, we will get. If the storm shifts east, it's likely we won't get any snow. If the storm shifts west, then we can get another foot of snow. So that's why I wanted to share some information and just go over what it means to have a snow emergency. So if we can bring up the snow emergency slides, what does that actually mean? I'm actually in a lot of neighborhood Facebook groups, and this is where a lot of people get information about what to do with a snowstorm. And I noticed that a lot of people don't know what to do during a snow emergency. And there are several reasons for that. One is we haven't had a major snowstorm like this in over 10 years. So if you're a young person and you're coming into adulthood, you might not have experienced a snowstorm as an adult. Secondly, there's a lot of transplants, people coming from states like Texas and Florida and even Central and South America, where they don't typically deal with snow. And then there's just people who really are clueless. We don't know why, but it's worth revisiting. So when the city declares a snow emergency, it's mainly around dangerous conditions for vehicles. And in our city, we have a variety of snow emergency routes. And so it's really important if you live near a snow emergency route to move your vehicle, or it's going to get towed. So if you don't move your vehicle or your dumpster, you may be ticketed, your vehicle may be towed, and vehicles that cannot move under their own power are not exempt. So if your car is broke down, sorry for it. If you have an electric vehicle, it's not charged, they're going to tow it. The good news is that you can find your vehicle, and I'll let you know in a second how you can find your vehicle. But again, these snow emergency routes are important because these are where police and other emergency vehicles like ambulances are going to be traveling in order to get people. And this is typically before all the streets are plowed. It's a major operation to plow the streets. Many of us live on side streets that have not been plowed. And so these emergency routes are very important for that reason. So now a lot of people are finally going out there to shovel. I know, even though it's been a few days, a lot of people's cars are completely covered in snow thanks to these plows. So you're seeing a lot of people in the last couple of days still digging out. There's quite a few people on my street that have not dug out yet from the snow. So that is going to continue. Just remember, don't shovel or plow the snow into the street. That's just going to create more problems for drivers. And so you're seeing a lot of snow mounds. Definitely don't shovel it into the neighbor's parking space that dug out. That's probably going to cause some problems. So you try to find a safe space on the sidewalk where you can do that. And if you see somebody doing this, they can get penalized for that. It's actually against the city code, and the penalty is $50 to $300 for each violation. Make sure you keep those fire hydrants clear as well. On Saturday night, it was Friday night. Actually it was Saturday night because I was coming from the airport. There was a big fire next to the Betsy Ross Bridge, and there was a number of emergency vehicles, fire engines and the like, who were having to put out this pretty big fire. I'm not sure how it started, but again, fires do happen during snowstorms. So just make sure that and especially when there's ice involved and there's power outages, you want to make sure you keep those clear. Keep your sidewalk path at least 36 inches wide within 6 hours. So a lot of people don't know that you do have a responsibility to shovel snow. If you're a renter, you have to check with your landlord, check your lease. Some leases say it's the renter's responsibility to shovel, and other leases, it's the landlord's responsibility or the property manager. You want to make sure you find a shovel. There's a lot of shovels left. So if we're expecting another storm, you want to see if you can order one online or, see if they've restocked that. But you wouldn't believe the number of people who don't have shovels to do that. Clear the snow from the neighborhood sewer drains. I've seen people put snow into the sewer drains. Don't do that. You're not supposed to do that. Allow extra time if you have to drive, but especially if you have to take public transit. SEPTA still operating with a number of delays. And definitely check in on those neighbors, especially your older neighbors, people who are disabled, people with small children. One thing that I noticed about people on my block, everybody was helping each other shovel out. My neighbor shoveled my car out. So this is a good time to get to know your neighbors and work together. So again, how to find that that towed vehicle. You can call 215-686-SNOW. A lot of people were calling their local police precinct. They're not going to know. This is the city number. Call this number. It says, do not call 911. Be prepared to provide information to identify your vehicle. So again, it's a good idea to take a photo of your vehicle registration and your license plate. I know I don't know that stuff off the top of my head. So take photos, make sure you have that. That takes us to Code Blue. We've been under Code Blue. You don't need snow for Code Blue to be enacted. It's all about the temperature. And when the temperature feels near or below 20 degrees to wind chill, that is when the city activates a Code Blue. And so there are outreach workers that are out there every day talking to unhoused people to try to figure out how to transport them to safe indoor spaces. They're providing additional shelter beds, and there's warming centers throughout the city. One thing, again, I've seen in these Facebook groups is people reporting their neighbors leaving their dogs outside in the extreme cold. On Saturday, the wind chill was -2, and there was dogs outside. It's actually not legal to do that. And so you have to have, if you are going to leave your dog outside, have a big enough shelter for the dog to sit down and lay inside, moisture-proof, wind-proof, ventilated, and warm, made of strong material, clean and not filled with dirt, trash, or waste. They have to have clean bedding, such as hay, straw, or cedar shavings. Blankets are actually not a good idea. A lot of people make the cat shelters as well for the community cats. The blankets get really cold and can even freeze. So hay or straw is the way to go. Dogs also have access to drinking water. What happens to the drinking water when it's below freezing? It freezes, right? So snow or ice is not acceptable. There's a number that you can call 267-385-3800. Dial number 1. You can also file a report online on the city's website. But I'm going to tell you, a lot of people I saw call this number and weren't able to get through. I advise people to call 911 and get the police to come out there. And in every single case, the police actually did come very quickly and made the owners of the dogs put the dogs inside and even issued a fine. So you can do either, but if you're not making progress with this phone number, call the police, let them know that animal cruelty is happening. Finally, we have warming centers that are open all day, but now there's also warming centers open from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. We have the Kensington Wellness in the Kensington neighborhood, De Silvestro Recreation Center, MLK Recreation Center, it's in North Philly, Lonnie Young Recreation Center in Germantown. In the Northeast, we have Palbano Recreation Center, Samuel Recreation Center in Port Richmond, and Scanlon Recreation Center also in North Philly. So make sure, everyone is inside and warm. If there are unhoused people in your community, definitely check on them. Outreach workers are not able to get to everybody. Let them know they don't have to go to a shelter. A lot of people who are unhoused, they don't want to go to a shelter, but they can go to a warming center and at least have a safe space to be overnight. We're in the middle of winter, so we can have more snowstorms in February and even March. So definitely prepare yourself for these weather events and be sure to be checking the city website. All of this information came from the city's website. I was able to help a number of people on social media just by copying, pasting the information. So if you don't remember any of it, you can literally search online City of Philadelphia and snow emergency or City of Philadelphia and code blue. And all of this information is available. You can also follow the Office of Emergency Management on social media, and they post all of this information as well.
And this cold snap isn't going to end for a while. We're going to be in this for the foreseeable future. So this is really important information for people to know.
Yeah, we have to take care of each other. We have to hunker down. I think the number one thing that I got from the mayor's press conference was a frustration around so many people driving when told to stay home. And they had towed over 300 vehicles along the snow emergency routes. So the mayor was pretty clear. Please stay home, take public transit if you can, work from home if you can, try to let the city do its job and plow the roads. It's very difficult for the city to plow when there's lots of vehicles on the road. I was also watching some of the TV news stations. They were out on 95 and they were reporting lots of cars being stuck out there. So do take heed when they encourage people to stay home and not drive. There's a reason for that. You don't want to get stuck. And if you do drive, you want to make sure that you have emergency stuff in your vehicle. You want to maybe have additional blankets and winter weather gear. You want to make sure you have water. You want to have some cones or some, emergency products to put around your vehicle in case it gets stuck. And so again, just take precaution and stay safe and stay warm out there.
All right. Thank you very much, Vanessa. Denise, thank you as well. And we'd also like to thank Lisa Haver for joining us on the show this week. We will be back next week with more Hall Monitor.